The courthouse records room smelled like lemon pledge and 40 years of regret. My breath hung visible in the unheated air, each exhale a small ghost dissolving against the frosted glass. The radiator hissed and died. Again. I found the divorce papers in drawer 17B, right where Janet said they'd be. Filed December 18th. The same day we buried my mother, Warren's signature wobbled across the bottom line. Witnessed by Elena Voss, Notary Public. Power of attorney for medical decisions, the header read. Except this wasn't medical. This was legal theft wrapped in grief. The date stamp read 4:47 p.m. Mother's funeral ended at 3:30. He'd signed it the moment we left the cemetery. My wedding ring hung on a chain against my chest. No longer on my finger, but still close enough to hurt. Through the door's gold lettering, county clerk, my old title, I saw Janet approaching. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Maggie," she whispered. "There's more. He remarried, last week." The cold metal door handle burned my palm as I pushed outside. Ice cracked under my boots on the courthouse steps. Salt grit, diesel fumes from the plow truck idling at the curb. The winter air cut straight through my coat. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, engine running, heat blasting, staring at those papers. 40 years. Married at 21. Raised Katie together. Buried her together 2 years ago when the cancer won. And somewhere in that grief, in that shared devastation that should have bound us closer, Warren had decided I wasn't enough. No, that wasn't right. Someone had decided for him. I drove to the farm on autopilot, muscle memory guiding me down roads I'd traveled 10,000 times. The Hollis homestead. 300 acres of corn and soybeans, Warren's family land going back 4 generations, the place where we'd brought Katie home from the hospital, where she'd learned to ride a bike, where we'd buried her beneath the oak tree against every cemetery regulation because she'd asked to stay home. A new gate blocked the drive, chain link, 8 feet high, topped with barbed wire, a sign, "No trespassing, Voss Development." I parked on the road and walked to the fence. The farmhouse looked smaller from this distance, white paint peeling. The barn's roof sagged in the middle, waiting for repairs Warren had promised to make last spring. Katie's tree swing hung from the oak, chains rusted, seat weathered gray. Fresh flowers lay on her grave, yellow roses. Warren's choice, always. He still came here then, still remembered. But he'd signed away the land that held her. I pressed my forehead against the cold chain link, metal diamonds imprinting my skin. A truck engine growled behind me. I turned. Black Range Rover, dealer plates still visible. The window rolled down. A woman, maybe 38, auburn hair pulled back in a perfect twist, wearing a cream cashmere coat that probably cost more than my car payment. "You're trespassing, Mrs. Hollis." The title landed like a slap. I wasn't Mrs. anymore. That's what the papers said. "This is a public road," I said. "The fence line extends to the drainage ditch. You're on private property." She smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Elena Voss, though I suppose you've heard of me." Can't say I have." "Funny. Warren talks about you quite a bit." She adjusted her sunglasses. "You should know he's very happy. We both are. Fresh start, new life, all that." My hands curled into fists inside my coat pockets. "Where is he?" "At home. Our home. The guest house on my property in town. Much more manageable than this old place. Warren's getting too old for farm work anyway, don't you think? All that bending, lifting, bad for his back." Warren was 64 and could still throw hay bales like he was 30. But I didn't say that. "The land is legally mine. Well, ours, joint ownership. Warren signed everything over willingly. Very willingly." Elena's smile widened. "He's free of this burden now. Free of a lot of burdens, actually." She meant me. "I'd offer condolences about your mother," Elena continued. "But Warren mentioned you two weren't close. Easier that way, I suppose. Less guilt about moving on." The lie was so smooth, I almost didn't catch it. Mother and I had talked every Sunday. She died holding my hand. Elena's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned. "I have a meeting. You should go, Maggie. There's nothing for you here anymore." The Range Rover pulled away, gravel spitting from under the tires. I stood there until the cold seeped through my boots, numbing my toes. Then I walked back to my car and opened the glove box. Inside, wrapped in an old handkerchief, was the key to the farm's side gate. The one Warren's father had given me 39 years ago. "Your family now," he'd said. I could use it. Slip onto the property, see the house up close, touch Katie's grave. But that would make me the trespasser Elena claimed I was. I put the key back and started the engine. At home, my apartment now, not our house, never ours again, I spread the divorce papers across the kitchen table. Janet had given me copies of everything, the whole file. Property transfer pending, that's what it said. Pending approval from the county assessor's office, spring survey required before finalization, April 15th, deadline. Warren's signature on the quitclaim deed looked wrong. The letters cramped, spacing uneven. His W slanted backward when it should slant forward. I'd seen his handwriting thousands of times. Birthday cards, grocery lists, the note he'd left on Katie's hospital bed the night she died. This signature looked like it had been written by a man whose hand was shaking. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mrs. Hollis? Raymond Colfax, Riverside Investigations. Your friend Pearl Sutter called. Said you might need help finding someone. I know where he is. Do you know why he's there? I looked at that shaking signature. No, I admitted. Then let me find out. Mabel's Diner hadn't changed in 40 years. Same red vinyl booths, same coffee that tasted like burnt tires, same crowd of farmers who showed up at 6 a.m. regardless of season, the windows fogged with steam from the grill, bacon grease, and cigarette smoke. Though smoking had been banned for a decade, the smell had soaked into the walls. I ordered coffee. The waitress, new girl, maybe 20, poured without meeting my eyes. The whispers started before I sat down. That's her. Heard she showed up at the farm. Can you blame him? Katie's death changed everything. Still, the timing, during the funeral. I kept my gaze on my coffee cup. The counter was scarred for mica, decades of elbows wearing grooves into the surface. Someone had carved initials near the sugar dispenser. W.H. plus M.C. Warren Hollis and Margaret Crawford. We'd sat here on our third date. A woman I vaguely recognized from church smiled at me. Pity smile. The kind that says, I'm sorry your life fell apart. A younger woman at the corner booth, Sandra Chen, the realtor with the new office downtown, didn't smile at all. Just watched me with the cool assessment of someone calculating property values. The bell over the door jangled. Pearl Sutter slid into the booth across from me without asking. She was 67, retired from the bank 3 years ago, still wore her reading glasses on a chain around her neck. We'd worked together when I was county clerk. She'd helped me process the paperwork when my son got custody of his daughter. I'd helped her navigate probate when her husband died. You planning to roll over? Pearl said. Or you planning to fight? I don't know what I'm planning. Yes, you do. You've been planning since the moment Janet showed you those papers. Pearl pulled a manila folder from her purse, set it on the table. I made some calls. Elena Voss. Started a development company 6 years ago. Bought up 3 farms on the east side. Converted them to subdivisions, except the developments never got built. What happened? Money ran out. Projects stalled. She's got $4 million in debt and a loan coming due in May. Pearl opened the folder. Bank statements, property records, legal filings, all the things she shouldn't have had access to anymore. Your husband's land is worth $2.4 million. Convenient timing for a wedding, don't you think? The coffee turned sour in my stomach. My phone rang. Raymond Colfax. I need to see you, he said. Tonight, my office. Pearl drove. Her car smelled like peppermint and old leather. We didn't talk. The radio played farm reports, corn futures, predictions for spring planting, normal things for people whose lives weren't imploding. Raymond's office sat above a pawn shop on 3rd Street. The stairs creaked. Inside, filing cabinets lined every wall, stacked with manila folders that looked older than me. He was maybe 58, gray hair, hands stained with ink from a fountain pen he used for his field notes. Old school, the kind of investigator who wrote everything down by hand. Sit, he said. Pearl and I sat. Raymond spread photographs across his desk. Telephoto shots, grainy from distance. Warren standing in a guest house doorway, coffee cup in hand. Warren staring at nothing in a backyard. Warren getting into Elena's Range Rover, shoulders hunched, moving like a man 20 years older. That's from yesterday, Raymond said. I've been watching the property for 3 days. He doesn't leave except with her. Doesn't work, doesn't visit anyone. Neighbors say he looks lost. He's always been quiet, I said. This isn't quiet. This is isolated. Raymond pulled out another photo. Elena's development office converted from an old grain silo downtown, steel and glass, modern furniture visible through the windows. She's hemorrhaging money. The bank's about to foreclose on her current project. Without your husband's land as collateral, her company dies. Pearl leaned forward. How'd she get the land as collateral if the transfer isn't final? Quit claim deed. Raymond tapped the document, signed the same day as the divorce. Warren transferred ownership to a joint holding company, Voss Hollis Properties, LLC. Elena's listed as managing partner. She used that to secure a farm loan, $600,000 against the property value. That's legal? I asked. If both parties sign. And they did. He slid another paper across. Warren's signature, same shaky letters. But here's the problem. The deed can't be finalized until the county assessor completes a spring survey. State requirement for agricultural land transfers. The survey happens April 15th. After that, the land is legally hers. So we have until April 15th, Pearl said. To prove what? My voice came out hollow. That he signed under duress? He's remarried to her. Living with her. How do we prove coercion when he's choosing to stay? Raymond's expression didn't change. We proved she manipulated a grieving man who'd just lost his daughter and his mother-in-law within 2 years. A man who signed away his family's legacy while he was emotionally compromised. A man whose signature looks like it was written during an earthquake. He pulled out one more document. The signature on the marriage license, dated December 22nd, 4 days after the divorce, 4 days after the quitclaim deed. Warren's signature didn't shake on this one. It was firm, clear, steady. He signed the property papers under duress, Raymond said. But he married her of his own free will, which means he either figured out what she was doing and went along with it anyway, or he doesn't know, I finished. He doesn't know she's stealing everything he has. Pearl's hand found mine across the desk. The statute of limitations for contesting a coerced property transfer is 60 days from discovery. If we don't file by March 1st, that deed becomes permanent. 6 weeks. I stared at Warren's shaking signature, then at the steady one beside Elena's name. Find out which, I told Raymond. Find out if he knows, because if he's a willing participant, I'll walk away. But if she's using him, then we bury her, Pearl said quietly. Outside, sleet began to fall. Raymond's Jeep smelled like coffee gone cold and wet canvas. We sat parked on a gravel road 300 yards from Elena's property. Hidden behind a windbreak of pine trees, snow fell in fat, heavy flakes, muffling sound. The engine ticked as it cooled. There, Raymond said, adjusting the telephoto lens. Through the bare branches, I could see the guest house. Small converted barn painted gray. Warm light in one window. Warren's silhouette passed across it, pacing, back and forth like a caged animal. Raymond snapped photos. The shutter sound seemed too loud in the quiet. How long has he been doing that? I asked. 3 hours, since she left for her office. Raymond lowered the camera. He only moves freely when she's gone. When she's home, he sits. Doesn't read, doesn't watch TV, just sits. My phone buzzed. Pearl. I can freeze her loan, she said without preamble. The farm loan, I still know people at the bank. If I call in some favors, push the right paperwork, I can tie it up for 30 days. Maybe 40, if we're lucky. But Maggie, I risk my license doing this. They find out I'm manipulating loans for personal reasons. Don't, I said. I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm offering. Pearl's voice hardened. I spent 40 years watching predatory lenders destroy farm families. I'm not watching it happen to yours. Not when I can stop it. Through the trees, Warren stopped pacing. He stood at the window, forehead pressed against the glass, looking out at nothing. Do it, I said. Raymond adjusted the rearview mirror. His eyes met mine. Warren just came outside. I ducked instinctively, though we were too far away for him to see us. Warren walked down the driveway to the mailbox, shoulders hunched against the snow. He wore jeans and a flannel shirt, no coat. His breath came in clouds. He opened the mailbox. Empty. He stood there anyway, one hand on the metal post, staring down the road like he was waiting for something. Someone. Does he know you're here? Raymond asked quietly. No. Warren turned slowly, scanning the tree line. His gaze passed over our location, kept moving, came back, stopped. He couldn't see us. The pines were too thick, the Jeep too dark. But he stared anyway, right at our hiding spot for 30 full seconds. Then he went inside. He's hoping someone's out here, Raymond said. He's hoping someone's looking for him. The next morning, I met with the Kowalski brothers at their farm. Dutch and Martin, 55 and 58, third-generation farmers who'd known Warren since they were boys. They'd gone to the same one-room schoolhouse, played on the same baseball team, worked the same county fair booth selling sweet corn every August. Their kitchen table was scarred oak, worn smooth by decades of elbows. Coffee percolated on the stove. The room smelled like bacon and motor oil. Warren would never sell that land willingly, Dutch said. He had hands like baseball mitts, knuckles swollen from arthritis. His granddaddy homesteaded it in 1889. Warren used to say he'd die before he let it leave the family. Elena's planning to auction it April 10th, I said. 5 days before the survey deadline. She's already got flyers printed. Prime development land, 300 acres, excellent location. Martin spat into the sink. Over my dead body. I need help stopping it. Legal help. You got it. Dutch pulled out his phone, started texting. I know every farmer, every equipment dealer, every feed supplier in 3 counties. We'll flood that auction. Ghost bid. Drive the price so high Elena can't afford her own property. I stopped. That's actually brilliant. We've done it before. When that developer from Chicago tried to buy the Morrison place for a strip mall, community showed up, bid against each other, drove the price to triple the value. Developer gave up, sold it back to Morrison's son at cost. Dutch's smile was grim. We take care of our own. My phone rang. Sandra Chen, the realtor from Mabel's. Mrs. Hollis, we need to talk. We met at her office. New construction, all glass and chrome, jarring against the old brick buildings downtown. She wore a power suit, heels that clicked on the polished floor, but her hands shook as she poured tea. Elena paid me a commission to list the farm, Sandra said. $10,000 just to put my name on the paperwork. I thought it was a legitimate sale. I didn't know about the coercion, about the timing. You couldn't have known. I should have asked questions. Sandra pulled out a folder. This is everything Elena gave me. Property surveys, tax records, development plans. But there's something else, something she didn't mean to include. She handed me a single sheet, email, printed. From Elena to someone named Vincent Caruso in Chicago. Got the land locked down. Husband's too grief-stupid to notice. Once the survey clears, we liquidate and pay you first. Full 4M plus points. Nobody gets hurt if the old man stays quiet. The timestamp was December 20th, 2 days after Warren signed. Who's Vincent Caruso? I asked. I Googled him. Sandra's face was pale. He's connected to a development group with ties to organized crime. Elena owes them $4 million. She borrowed it to start her company, and when her projects failed, they started demanding payment, with interest. The room felt suddenly cold. She's not just stealing Warren's land, Sandra continued. She's using it to save her own life. My phone buzzed. Raymond. Elena just filed a restraining order against you. Emergency hearing tomorrow morning. She's claiming harassment, stalking, threatening behavior. Judge Hendricks is presiding. I haven't done anything. Doesn't matter. If she gets that order, you can't attend the auction. You can't get within 500 feet of her or the property. You're legally blocked from stopping the sale. Through Sandra's office window, I watched snowfall on Main Street, covering everything in white, erasing all the tracks. Tomorrow morning, I said. We'll deal with it tomorrow. But tonight, I sat in my car outside Elena's property until midnight, watching Warren's window. The light stayed on the whole time. I wondered if he could sleep anymore. I wondered if he lay awake thinking about Katie, about the farm, about everything he'd lost. I wondered if he thought about me. Raymond wore a wire to Elena's office that morning. I sat in his Jeep 2 blocks away, headphones on, listening to the recording equipment hiss and pop. The grain silo conversion was all steel echo and expensive nothing. I could hear Elena's heels on the polished concrete, the espresso machine gurgling, her voice sharp with irritation. I don't care what the judge says. Make it happen. That woman is harassing us. Warren's terrified of her. Ms. Voss, her lawyer said, young voice, uncertain. A restraining order requires evidence of actual threats. Do you have any? She showed up at the property. She's been watching the house. Warren saw a car parked on the road at midnight. That's stalking. Raymond's voice, muffled by the wire. Ms. Voss, about the property survey. Who the hell are you? County Assessor's Office. Just verifying the April 15th appointment. It's verified. Now get out. A door slammed. Silence. Then Elena's voice again, quieter, to her lawyer. Listen to me. Without that land, I'm dead. Not broke. Dead. Vincent Caruso doesn't accept payment plans. If I don't liquidate by May 1st, they'll liquidate me. So, yes, I'm burying that ex-wife in paperwork. Yes, I'm lying about harassment, whatever it takes. The lawyer cleared his throat. What about Mr. Hollis? If he objects to the sale? He won't. But if he does, he signed a will. Elena's voice turned cold. Everything goes to me if he dies within 5 years of marriage. Heart attack, accident, doesn't matter. I inherit. So, if Warren suddenly grows a conscience, if he decides to play hero and reclaim his precious farm, she let the threat hang. He won't. He's too broken. The recording clicked off. I sat in the Jeep, hands shaking, staring at nothing. Warren had signed a will, 5 years. If he died, Elena got everything. Raymond climbed into the driver's seat, pulled the wire from under his shirt. Got it all. Confession, threats, motive. It's enough to void the deed. It's not enough to save him. Maggie. She's threatening to kill him, Ray. If he gets in her way, if he tries to fight back, she has 4 million reasons to make sure he doesn't. The courthouse smelled like floor wax and old wood. Judge Hendricks presided from a bench worn smooth by 100 years of judgment. He was 73, had gone to school with Warren's father, still wore suspenders under his robe. Elena sat front row, perfect posture, designer suit. Her lawyer beside her, looking too young to shave. Warren sat 3 seats away, not beside her, away. He looked thinner than in Raymond's photographs. His shirt hung loose at the collar, gray stubble on his jaw like he'd forgotten to shave. When I walked in, his eyes found mine, held. Something flickered in his face. Relief? Fear? I couldn't read it. Elena's lawyer stood. Your Honor, Ms. Voss seeks a restraining order against Margaret Hollis for harassment, stalking, and threatening behavior following their divorce. Evidence? Judge Hendricks asked. Mrs. Hollis appeared at the property on December 20th, refused to leave when asked. She's been seen parked on the adjacent road multiple times, watching the residents. Mr. Hollis has reported feeling unsafe. The judge looked at Warren. That true, Warren? Warren's jaw worked. He glanced at Elena. She touched his hand. Proprietary, smiled. Yes, sir, Warren said quietly. The lie landed like a fist to the gut. I stood. Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence that Ms. Voss obtained the property through coercion and fraud. This is a restraining order hearing, not a property dispute. The property dispute is why she wants me restrained. She's trying to block me from attending the auction. Judge Hendricks sighed. Make it quick, Maggie. I handed over Warren's signatures. Divorce, quitclaim deed, marriage license, Raymond's expert analysis. The property transfer signature shows extreme duress markers. Shaky lettering, inconsistent spacing, backward slant. The marriage license, signed 4 days later, shows none of these signs. He signed the property papers under emotional duress during his mother-in-law's funeral. Elena's lawyer jumped up. Mr. Hollis was grief-impaired at the time, yes, that's why Miss Voss helped him through the process. She provided emotional support during an incredibly difficult period. She manipulated him. Objection, speculation. Judge Hendricks studied the signatures. His face revealed nothing. I'll need expert testimony. Warren, did anyone force you to sign these documents? Warren stared at his hands. The silence stretched. Elena's fingers tightened on his. No, sir, he whispered. Did Ms. Voss coerce you, threaten you, or manipulate you in any way? No, sir. I couldn't breathe. The courtroom pressed in. Too small, too hot. Warren wouldn't look at me. The judge sighed. Maggie, I appreciate your concern, but Mr. Hollis is a grown man, capable of making his own decisions. Without evidence of coercion, I have evidence. I pulled out Raymond's recording, the transcript. Elena Voss is $4 million in debt to organized crime. She's using Warren's land to pay it off, and she threatened his life if he interferes. Elena's lawyer shot to his feet. That recording is inadmissible. It was obtained without consent. Nebraska's a one-party consent state. I snapped. The investigator had every right to record. Judge Hendricks took the transcript, read it. His face darkened. This is a serious allegation. It's also true, I said. Warren didn't just sign a quitclaim deed. He signed a will. Everything to Elena if he dies within 5 years. Your Honor, she's not his wife. She's his captor. The courtroom erupted. Elena's lawyer shouting objections. Raymond standing to testify. Sandra Chen in the back row, taking notes. And Warren finally looked at me. Really looked. His eyes were wet, his face gray. He mouthed 2 words. I'm sorry. Judge Hendricks banged his gavel. Order. Ms. Voss, you'll submit to a deposition regarding these allegations. Mr. Hollis, you'll undergo a psychiatric evaluation to determine competency. And Mrs. Hollis, he paused. The restraining order is granted. You are barred from contacting Mr. Hollis or attending any proceedings related to the property until this matter is resolved. 500 feet minimum distance. Your Honor, that's my ruling. Court adjourned. Outside, the sky was flat white, promising more snow. Raymond caught my arm as I stumbled down the courthouse steps. We'll appeal. We'll fight this. She won. My voice sounded far away. Warren's trapped, and I'm blocked from helping him. Not yet. We have until April 10th. That's 8 weeks. 8 weeks to do what? I can't go near him. I can't attend the auction. She's got him locked down legally and physically. Raymond pulled me into the parking lot, away from the courthouse doors. Listen to me. Warren mouthed something to you in there. What was it? He said he's sorry. No, after that. When the judge was reading the ruling, he mouthed something else. I tried to remember. Warren's lips moving, barely, while Elena gripped his arm and smiled her victor's smile. Gavel. She keeps the gavel. He told me where it is, I said slowly. His appraiser's gavel. The one his father gave him. Elena has it in her office. Why would he tell you that? Because it matters. Because it's his. Because... I stopped. Because if she keeps trophies, she's arrogant. And arrogant people make mistakes. Pearl's car pulled up. She rolled down the window. Get in. We need to talk. Now. We drove to her house in silence. Inside, she spread new documents across her kitchen table. The smell of coffee, old books, Pearl's lavender hand soap. I froze Elena's loan, Pearl said. Called in every favor I had. The bank's holding her $600,000 in limbo for 30 days while they review the application. 30 days isn't enough. It is if we use them right. Pearl tapped the documents. Elena's desperate now. Desperate people rush, make errors. I've been watching her finances for 6 months, Maggie. Since last summer. Since I first heard she was circling Warren. I stared at her. 6 months? You've known about this for 6 months? I've suspected for 6. I've had proof for 3. But you weren't ready. You were too sad, too broken. Sad women give up. I needed you angry. I let you discover it in your own time. So when you fought, you'd mean it. Pearl's eyes were steel. Now, are you ready to fight, or are you ready to cry? Through the window, I could see snow falling again, covering the streets, the houses, the farm fields stretching to the horizon, covering everything. But underneath, the ground was waiting. Waiting for spring, waiting to thaw. I'm ready, I said. Katie's grave sat beneath the oak tree where Warren had built her the swing when she was 6. The chains were orange with rust now, the wooden seat cracked and weathered. Sleet fell in cold needles, melting on contact with my face. The ground was frozen hard. No give when I knelt. I brought tulips, Katie's favorite. The yellow ones that came up early, before the daffodils. Someone had been here recently. Fresh roses, still vibrant against the gray stone. Warren's flowers. He'd found a way to visit even with Elena, watching him, even with everything. I brushed ice crystals from Katie's name. Catherine Ann Hollis, 1989-2022, beloved daughter. The tree swing creaked in the wind. I remembered pushing her, her laughter carrying across the fields. Warren standing at the fence, watching us, smiling that quiet smile he had, back when we were whole. I don't know how to fix this, I said to the stone, to the memory. He signed away everything you loved, everything we built, and I don't know if he did it willingly, or if she broke him so thoroughly he doesn't know the difference anymore. The sleet turned to snow, heavier, muffling the world. I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, hesitant. I didn't turn. Warren stood on the other side of the grave, 40 feet between us. Far enough to satisfy the restraining order, close enough to see his face. We didn't speak. The snow fell between us, erasing footprints, covering ground. He wore a canvas coat I didn't recognize, too big in the shoulders. His hands were bare, skin red with cold. He looked at Katie's stone, at the swing, at the farmhouse visible through the trees, its white paint peeling, his grandfather's weather vanes still on the barn roof. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of paper, held it up so I could see. One of Katie's drawings, creased from being carried. She'd made it when she was 8, crayon stick figures. Mom, Dad, Katie, the oak tree, the swing, home. Warren's hand shook holding it. He folded it carefully, placed it on Katie's grave, weighted it down with a stone. Then he pulled out something else. A note, written on the back of a receipt. Set it on the stone beside the drawing. He looked at me one more time. His mouth moved. No sound, but I could read the words. I failed you both. Forgive me. Then he turned and walked away through the snow. I waited until his truck was gone before I moved. The note was short, Warren's handwriting, firm this time, clear, gavels in her office. She keeps it like a trophy. Southwest corner, glass shelf. I stood there for 5 minutes, paper trembling in my hands, while snow accumulated on my shoulders and the wind cut through my coat. Warren hadn't given up. He was fighting the only way he knew how. Silent, careful, giving me pieces. I drove straight to Pearl's house. She had company. Raymond, Dutch Miller, Sandra Chen, Martin Kowalski. They sat around her dining room table like a war council, coffee mugs and documents spread between them. The radiator clanked and hissed, fighting the cold. If Maggie can't attend the auction, Dutch was saying, we need someone else to stop it. The statute I found, I said, laying my coat across a chair. Nebraska Revised 76-237. Interested Party Disruption Protocol. It allows a legal objection during an auction if fraud can be proven, but the objection has to happen before the first bid is accepted. Raymond pulled out his laptop. How specific is before? The auctioneer has to acknowledge the objection. I get 90 seconds to present evidence once I invoke the statute. Then the sheriff decides if the auction proceeds or halts pending investigation. You're barred from attending, Sandra said gently. But Pearl isn't. Raymond isn't. You aren't. I looked around the table. I can't be there. But my evidence can. My testimony can be submitted in writing. Raymond's recordings. Pearl's financial documentation. We don't need me present to stop it. We need someone to stand up and invoke the statute, Pearl said. Someone with legal standing. Yeah, an interested party, I said. Someone with a claim to the property. The room went quiet. Warren, Dutch said finally. Warren's the only one with standing. He's on the deed. If he objects, he won't, Sandra said. Not publicly. Elena's got him too controlled. Maybe. I thought about Warren standing across Katie's grave. The note, the drawing, the way his hands shook. Or maybe he's been waiting for someone to give him permission to fight back. Raymond closed his laptop. You can't contact him, the restraining order. I can't. But the note can. When I pulled out my phone, took a picture of Katie's drawing. He comes to the grave. He left this for me to find. If I leave something for him, that's a violation, Sandra warned. It's a public cemetery. I'm allowed to visit my daughter's grave. If Warren happens to visit the same grave and finds a message, that's not contact, that's coincidence. Pearl smiled slowly. What will the message say? I thought about Warren's face across the courtroom. I'm sorry, like he'd already lost, like he'd given up before the fight even started. It'll say he's not alone, I said, and that Katie would want him to come home. Outside, the sleet had stopped. The sky was clearing, stars visible through breaking clouds. Still winter. Still frozen, but somewhere underneath, spring was waiting. The newspaper arrived on my doorstep Thursday morning. Local section, above the fold, former clerk accused of harassment. The article made me sound unhinged. Sources close to this couple report that Ms. Hollis has been stalking the newlyweds, appearing at their property at all hours, refusing to accept the end of her marriage. A quote from Elena. We just want to move on with our lives, but she won't let us heal. The accompanying photo showed me outside the fence at the farm, hands gripping chain link, face pressed against the metal. I looked desperate. Crazy, I hadn't known anyone was taking pictures. My phone started ringing at 7 a.m. Friends from church, former coworkers, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Some offered sympathy, most wanted gossip. By 8, I'd stopped answering. At Mabel's diner, the whispers followed me like smoke. I ordered coffee to go, didn't sit. The new waitress wouldn't meet my eyes. At the counter, 2 younger farmers laughed behind their hands. Heard she showed up at midnight with binoculars. Restraining order's not enough. Woman needs help. I paid cash, left without the coffee. In the parking lot, Sandra Chen intercepted me. She wore running clothes, ponytail pulled tight, no makeup. She looked younger without the realtor armor. I'm sorry, she said. Elena sent those photos to the paper herself. Hired someone to follow you. She's been planning this for weeks. Why are you telling me? Because I listed that property. Because my name's on the paperwork. And because last night I couldn't sleep thinking about what happens when this goes to auction and people realize I helped her steal it. Sandra pulled out her phone, showed me a Yelp review, 1 star, anonymous posting. Says I help developers less scam old farmers out of their land. There are 6 more like it. All posted yesterday. Elena? She's covering her tracks, making sure if this blows up, I'm the one who takes the fall. Sandra's voice shook. I'm 20 years into building a reputation in this town. She's destroying it in 48 hours. Then help me stop her. How? You're barred from the auction. Warren won't fight. The community thinks you're unstable. What's left? I didn't have an answer. Pearl's car pulled into the lot. She rolled down the window. Maggie, get in, now. We drove to the bank. Not the new branch on Highway 12, the old building downtown. Red brick, built in 1923, vault door still original. Pearl had her own key. Led me through the lobby to a back office that smelled like paper and machine oil. Sit, she said. I sat. Pearl opened a filing cabinet, pulled out a folder 3 inches thick, set it on the desk between us with a sound like judgment. Elena Voss, she said. 6 years of financial records, every loan application, every property purchase, every failed development project. I've been building this file since August. August? That was 4 months before Warren filed for divorce, 5 months before my mother died. I saw her at a county planning meeting. She was asking about agricultural land, about property values, about which farms might be vulnerable. She mentioned Warren's name, said she'd heard he was struggling after his daughter's death, said she might be able to help him transition to something more manageable. Pearl's voice hardened. That's predator language. I've heard it 1,000 times in 40 years at this bank. Why didn't you tell me? Because I had suspicions, not proof, and because you weren't ready to hear it. You were deep in grief, Maggie. You just lost Katie. Your marriage was barely holding together. If I'd come to you with theories about some woman circling Warren, you'd have thought I was paranoid. Pearl opened the folder. So I waited, and I watched, and I documented everything. She spread the documents like playing cards. Bank statements showing Elena's company hemorrhaging money. Loan applications denied by 3 different institutions before she found one desperate enough to approve. Her email chains, where she asked about Warren specifically, about his property value, about whether he had any debt. She targeted him, Pearl said, deliberately. Researched his finances, his emotional state, his vulnerabilities. This wasn't romance. It was reconnaissance. When did you know for sure? October. She applied for a loan using preliminary paperwork from the farm. Claimed Warren had agreed to a partnership. This was before they were even dating publicly, before the divorce was filed. She was already planning to take his land. I stared at the papers. Months of evidence. Months of Pearl watching, waiting, building a case. You let me think I was discovering this, I said slowly. You let me hire Raymond, visit the grave, go through all of it thinking I was figuring it out myself. Because you needed to own the fight. If I'd handed you this in October, you'd have been fighting for me, following my lead. This way, you're fighting for yourself, for Warren, for Katie. Pearl leaned forward. And angry women who own their fight don't quit. My hands trembled on the folder. She's destroying my reputation, making me look crazy. Even if we prove fraud, even if we stop the auction, I'll be the bitter ex-wife who couldn't let go. Let her destroy your reputation. Pearl's smile was cold. Reputations rebuild. What we're destroying is her entire operation. She pulled out another document, a bank memo dated yesterday. I froze her loan 30 days ago. That freeze expires April 8th, 2 days before the auction. When it expires, the bank will demand immediate repayment, $600,000 plus penalties. Elena doesn't have it. She's been counting on the auction to pay off the loan. So I convinced the bank to demand full documentation of the collateral. Property surveys, title searches, proof of ownership. Every piece of paper has to be perfect, or they won't release the freeze. Pearl's eyes gleamed. And if Warren objects to the auction, even once, even in writing, that creates a title dispute, which means the collateral is compromised, which means the bank won't release the loan, which means Elena can't pay her investors. She'll come after Warren. She already is. But we'll be faster. Pearl closed the folder. You asked how we fight when you're barred from the auction. We don't fight at the auction. We fight here. In the paperwork. In the bureaucracy. We bury her in the same system she tried to use to bury you. Through the window, I watched Main Street. Small town, old buildings, people walking to work. Normal Thursday morning for everyone except me. How long have you been planning this? I asked. 6 months. Since the moment I saw her smile when she said Warren's name. Pearl stood, gathered the documents. Elena thinks she's the predator. She's wrong. She just doesn't know it yet. I couldn't sleep. 3 a.m., I sat at my kitchen table with Katie's last letter spread in front of me. Found it 2 weeks ago in a box of her things I'd been too afraid to open. Written 3 days before she died, her handwriting shaky from the medication but still hers. Mom, I know you and Dad think I don't see it, but I do. You're both breaking. You sit with me and smile and pretend everything's fine, but then you go into separate rooms and cry where you think I can't hear. It's not your fault. None of this is anyone's fault. Cancer just happens. But what happens after? That's your choice. Take care of Dad. He's going to blame himself. He'll think he should have caught it earlier, driven faster to the hospital, prayed harder, something. Make sure he knows he did everything right. Make sure he knows he's loved. And Mom, don't let him disappear. He does that when he's hurting. Goes quiet. You have to be loud enough for both of you. I love you. Both of you. Don't forget that when this gets hard. Katie. I read it until the words blurred. Take care of Dad. Don't let him disappear. I'd failed both counts. My phone rang. 4 a.m. Unknown number. Mrs. Hollis? A voice I didn't recognize. Young, scared. This is Wade Mitchell. I work at the gas station on Highway 12. Warren Hollis just used the payphone here. He said if anything happens to him, make sure you know he tried. My blood went cold. What do you mean, if anything happens? He looked bad, ma'am. Real bad. Shaking. Said Elena doesn't know he's out, that he told her he was sleeping. He asked me to call you. Said to tell you he wants to go home, but he doesn't know how anymore. Where is he now? He left. She pulled up in that Range Rover. He got in. He looked... Wade's voice cracked. He looked scared, Mrs. Hollis. I sat in the dark after the call ended, Katie's letter on one side, Warren's note from the grave on the other. I failed you both. He hadn't failed Katie. I had. She'd asked me to keep him from disappearing, and I'd let him vanish into Elena's control, let my own grief blind me until it was too late. But destroying Elena, was that taking care of Warren? Or was it revenge dressed up as rescue? If we stopped the auction, Elena's investors would come after her. Raymond said they were mob-connected, which meant Elena wasn't just facing bankruptcy, she was facing something worse. And Warren would watch it happen, would know his land, his testimony, his choice to fight back had put her in that position. Could he live with that? Could I? The sky lightened. Dawn came gray and cold. I made coffee I didn't drink and stared at nothing until my phone rang again. Raymond. Dutch wants to walk you through the auction setup. We're meeting at the barn at 9. The auction house was a converted tobacco barn on the edge of town. High ceilings and exposed beams. It smelled like sawdust and machine oil and decades of farm equipment changing hands. Dutch Miller stood on the auctioneer's platform, explaining procedure like a general briefing troops. Auction starts at 10 a.m., he said. I'm required to begin within 15 minutes of the posted time. State law. I can delay for weather, equipment failure, or legal objection. That's your window. Raymond stood beside me, taking notes. Martin and his brother sat in the folding chairs, testing sight lines. Sandra Chen hovered near the door, watching the street. Once I accept the first bid, Dutch continued, the objection window closes. After that, stopping the sale requires a court order. You get one shot and it has to happen in the first 90 seconds. 90 seconds to present fraud evidence, I said. To present enough evidence that the sheriff halts proceedings pending investigation. Dutch stepped down from the platform. I'll give you as much time as I legally can. But Maggie, you can't be here. The restraining order, I know. So who invokes the statute? We all looked at each other. Warren, Sandra said quietly. It has to be Warren. He's the only one with legal standing. He won't do it, Martin said. He's too far gone. He left a note at Katie's grave, I said. He called from a payphone at 4 a.m. He's not gone. He's trapped. There's a difference. Dutch pulled out a leather-bound book, cracked and worn, the auctioneer's rule manual, older than I was. He flipped to a flagged page. Interested party disruption protocol, he read. Any person with ownership stake in the property being auctioned may halt proceedings if credible fraud evidence is presented. Objection must occur before first bid is accepted. Objector has 90 seconds to state their case. Presiding officer, that's me, determines if evidence warrants investigation. He looked up. If Warren stands up in that barn and says Elena coerced him, I can stop the auction. But he has to say it, out loud, in front of 200 people, in front of her. He won't, Martin repeated. He will if he knows he's not alone, Pearl said from the doorway. She carried a cardboard box, set it on a folding table. Because he won't be, not this time. And she opened the box. Inside, printed copies of Elena's financial records, Raymond's recordings on CD, Sandra's email evidence, the handwriting analysis. Everything organized in folders, labeled, ready to present. We can't hand this to Warren, I said. The restraining order. We don't hand it to him. Pearl smiled. We leave it where he'll find it, Katie's grave. Same place he left you the note. He visits every Tuesday and Friday. Tomorrow's Friday. That's still contact? Indirect, but contact. It's evidence left at a public cemetery. If Warren finds it, that's not our fault. Pearl's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. We're not contacting him. We're trusting him to do what he's been trying to do all along. Fight back. Raymond checked his watch. Auctions in 24 hours. If this doesn't work, then we've lost, I said. But at least Warren will know we tried, that someone was fighting for him, that he wasn't alone. Dutch folded his manual. I'll delay the start as long as legally possible. 15 minutes maximum. If Warren's coming, he needs to be there by 10:15. After that, my hands are tied. And we worked through the afternoon, organizing evidence, rehearsing timing, preparing for every scenario. But as the sun set and everyone left, I sat alone in that empty barn, surrounded by the smell of old auctions and other people's new beginnings. Katie's letter was still in my pocket. Take care of Dad. I was trying. God, I was trying. But what if trying wasn't enough? What if Warren was too broken, too scared, too far under Elena's control to fight back? What if I'd waited too long, and now all I could do was watch him lose everything? Outside, sleet began to fall. The sound on the barn's metal roof was like 1,000 small judgments, each one saying, you failed, you failed, you failed. The auction barn filled early. By 9:30, every folding chair was occupied, and people lined the walls 3 deep. Farmers in canvas coats and mud-caked boots, equipment dealers with clipboards, real estate speculators in suits that cost more than most tractors. Elena's crowd and Warren's crowd, eyeing each other across the center aisle like opposing armies. I watched from Raymond's Jeep, parked like 2 blocks away. Binoculars, radio tuned to Dutch's frequency. The restraining order kept me 500 feet back, but it couldn't keep me from watching. Elena arrived at 9:45. Range Rover, polished to a mirror shine. She wore cream and gold, looked like she was attending a gala instead of an auction. Her lawyer followed her in, carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than my car. No Warren. My phone buzzed. Pearl, inside the barn. Evidence is gone from the grave. He found it. That didn't mean he'd come. Finding it and using it were different countries. Dutch took the platform at 9:55, adjusted the microphone. The crowd settled into expectant silence, broken only by coughing and the scrape of boot heels on concrete. Morning, folks. We're here to auction 300 acres of prime agricultural land, formerly known as the Hollis Homestead. Opening bid is $500,000. Before we begin, I need to verify all paperwork is in order. He made a show of shuffling documents, buying time. State requires I confirm clear title and... The barn door opened. Warren stood in the threshold, backlit by morning sun. He wore the canvas coat, the one I didn't recognize. But in his hand, he carried something I did recognize, his appraiser's gavel. The one his father had given him 40 years ago, the one Elena had kept as a trophy. He'd taken it back. The crowd murmured. Elena's face went white, then red. She stood. Warren, what are you— I'm here to stop this auction. His voice shook but carried. Under Nebraska Revised Statute 76-237 Interested Party Disruption Protocol. Dutch didn't smile, but his eyes gleamed. Mr. Hollis, you have 90 seconds to present your case. Warren walked down the center aisle. People shifted in their seats. Elena's lawyer moved to intercept, but the sheriff, standing by the door per auction requirements, stepped forward, one hand raised. Protocol was protocol. Warren reached the platform, set the gavel down with a sound like a judge's verdict, pulled papers from his coat pocket. His hands shook holding them, but his voice steadied. My name is Warren Hollis. This land has been in my family for 4 generations. Last December, I signed a quitclaim deed transferring ownership to Elena Voss. I signed it 3 hours after burying my mother-in-law, while I was still wearing my funeral suit. I was told it was a medical power of attorney. I didn't read it carefully. I should have. This is ridiculous, Elena said. Warren, tell them the truth. Tell them you signed willingly. Warren looked at her. Really looked, for the first time since he'd walked in. The truth is, I signed. Because you told me Margaret didn't want the farm anymore. You said she was planning to sell it to developers. You said if I didn't act fast, Katie's grave would become a parking lot. The crowd erupted. Dutch banged his gavel. Not Warren's, his own. Order. You lied, Warren continued. About Margaret, about the papers, about everything. And I was too broken from losing my daughter to see it. Elena's lawyer stood. Your Honor, Mr. Miller, this is a property auction, not a therapy session. Mr. Hollis signed legal documents. If he regrets that decision— I have proof, Warren said. He held up Pearl's folder. Financial records showing Elena Voss is $4 million in debt. Loan documents using my land as collateral without my knowledge. A recording where she admits to manipulating me. And a will I don't remember signing that gives her everything if I die within 5 years. The barn went silent. Warren's voice cracked. I was lonely. I was grieving. My daughter was dead. My wife and I couldn't look at each other without falling apart. And this woman showed up offering comfort, offering purpose, offering a way forward that didn't involve suffocating in my own grief. He looked at the crowd, at the farmers who'd known him since childhood. I'm not proud of what I did, of how I hurt Margaret, of how I abandoned everything Katie loved. But I'm here now, and I'm saying no, this auction stops. This land stays in my family, and if that means I lose everything else, so be it. He picked up the gavel, held it like a weapon, like a promise, like the last piece of himself he had left to give. Warren, don't, Elena said. Her voice had changed. No more honey, just desperation. You don't understand what you're doing. The people I owe money to, they'll kill me. Actually kill me. Is that what you want? I want to go home, Warren said quietly. He struck the gavel once against the platform. The sound echoed through the barn like a gunshot. Dutch cleared his throat. On the basis of evidence presented, and in accordance with Statute 76-237, this auction is hereby suspended pending investigation. Sheriff, please secure the property documents. Elena lunged for the table. Her lawyer grabbed her arm. She spun on Warren, and for a moment I thought she'd hit him. Instead, she laughed. High, brittle, breaking. That gavel belongs to me. I bought it, just like I bought you. You can't buy what was never for sale, Warren said, including me. He handed the gavel to Dutch. Then he walked past Elena, past her lawyer, past the crowd of stunned onlookers, straight to the door where Raymond stood waiting. They left together. Elena screamed something I couldn't hear through the binoculars. Her lawyer tried to calm her. 2 men in suits, not local, Chicago plates on their car, stood from the back row and moved toward the exit. Pearl intercepted them, said something that made them stop. My radio crackled. Maggie, get to the courthouse, now. I drove too fast, hands shaking on the wheel, parked illegally. Ran up the steps. Warren sat on a bench outside Judge Hendrick's chambers, Raymond beside him. When he saw me, he stood. We stopped 10 feet apart, the restraining order. I'm sorry, he said. For everything. For signing those papers. For believing her instead of believing in us. For letting Katie down. You didn't let her down. I let her grave almost become a parking lot. But you stopped it, I said. You fought back. I should have fought sooner. Oh, behind him, the judge's door opened. A bailiff emerged. Mr. Hollis, Judge Hendricks wants to see you. Ms. Voss has been taken into custody. We need your statement. Warren looked at the bailiff, then back at me. Will you wait? I'll wait. He went inside. Raymond sat beside me on the bench, maintaining the legal distance. We didn't talk, just sat while the courthouse hummed around us, people filing papers and making arguments and living their normal Thursday lives. An hour later, Warren emerged, the bailiff behind him, then Judge Hendricks himself. "Oh, Miss Hollis," the judge said. "The restraining order is vacated. Evidence suggests it was obtained through false pretenses. You're free to resume normal contact with Mr. Hollis, should you choose to do so." He left us there, Warren and me, 10 feet apart, then 5, then close enough to touch, though neither of us did. "The land's yours again," I said. Judge voided the quitclaim deed. Pearl worked some banking magic. It's like Elena never existed. Except she did exist, and I married her, and I hurt you. Warren's eyes were wet. "I don't expect forgiveness, Margaret. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know I never stopped loving you. I just stopped believing I deserved to be loved. After Katie died, after I couldn't save her, I thought maybe I deserved to lose everything else too. Then we're even," I said, "because I stopped believing I could keep anyone." We stood there while the courthouse emptied around us, while afternoon light slanted through the windows, while the world kept turning, indifferent to our small, broken pieces. "What happens now?" Warren asked. "I don't know. Can we figure it out?" I thought about Katie's letter. "Take care of Dad. Don't let him disappear." "We can try," I said. Judge Hendricks signed the joint stewardship agreement on a Tuesday morning in early April. The courthouse smelled like floor wax and fresh coffee. Spring sun came through the tall windows, warming the old wood floors. Warren and I sat on opposite sides of the judge's desk. Not together, not enemies, something in between. "This is unusual," the judge said, reviewing the documents Pearl's lawyer had drawn up. "Joint stewardship without cohabitation. You're essentially business partners managing the property." "That's right," I said. "Miss Hollis retains operational control, planning decisions, equipment purchases, day-to-day management. Mrs. Hollis handles legal and financial oversight, taxes, contracts, insurance, estate planning." The judge looked over his reading glasses at us. "An inheritance passes to Mr. Hollis's grandchildren, with both parties serving as trustees until the youngest reaches 25. Katie's buried on that land," Warren said quietly. "Whatever happens between Margaret and me, Katie stays home, and her memory stays protected." Judge Hendricks signed, made it official, slid copies across the desk to each of us. "Elena Voss pled guilty to fraud, forgery, and coercion," he said. 5 years minimum, likely more when the federal charges come through. Her investors are cooperating with authorities. She won't bother either of you again." We stood to leave. The judge stopped us at the door. "Warren, Margaret, I knew your fathers. Went to school with them. Good men, both of them. They'd want you to know you don't have to get this perfect. You just have to keep trying." Outside, Pearl waited on the courthouse steps. She handed Warren a set of keys. "House is unlocked." I had the locks changed, cleaned out Elena's things, donated them. Fresh start. Warren stared at the keys like they might burn him. "I don't know if I can go back there alone." "You won't be alone," Pearl said. "Dutch and Martin are there now, fixing that barn roof you've been putting off for 3 years. Sandra's coordinating with the county on the spring survey, and I took the liberty of restocking your pantry. You're out of coffee." Warren's eyes went wet. He didn't cry. Just stood there holding those keys while the spring breeze moved through the courthouse square, carrying the smell of fresh earth and possibility. "Thank you," he managed. Pearl patted his arm. Then she turned to me. "You did good, Maggie. Katie would be proud." She left us there on the steps. Just Warren and me and the April sun, and a whole future we hadn't figured out yet. "Do you want to see it?" Warren asked. "The farm, the repairs, Katie's grave. I planted daffodils like you did, yellow ones." We drove separately, him in his truck, me in my car, followed each other down roads we'd traveled together for 40 years, past Mabel's diner, past the grain elevator, past the high school where we'd met at a basketball game when we were 16. The new gate was gone. The chain link, the barbed wire, the no trespassing sign. Just the old wooden gate Warren's grandfather had built in 1960, repaired now, swinging easy on oiled hinges. The farmhouse looked smaller than I remembered, but the porch had been swept, fresh paint on the trim. Someone had planted pansies in the window boxes. "Pearl," Warren said, following my gaze. "She's been organizing volunteers. Half the county's been out here helping." We walked to Katie's grave together. The daffodils were blooming, yellow and bright against the gray stone. Warren had replaced the tree swing's chains, sanded and painted the seat. It looked like it had when Katie was 6, before time and grief had worn everything down. Warren knelt, brushed dirt from the base of the headstone. "I come here every morning, talk to her, Tell her what I'm planting, what repairs need doing, how the weather looks. Probably sounds crazy. It doesn't sound crazy. I tell her I'm sorry for leaving, for letting Elena convince me this place was a burden instead of a blessing. His voice caught. For not fighting harder to keep our family together. I knelt beside him, far enough apart to respect the distance, close enough to share the grief. She knew we were both breaking, I said. She wrote me a letter before she died, said to take care of you, said not to let you disappear. I disappeared anyway, but you came back. We sat in the grass while the wind moved through the new leaves on Katie's oak tree. Birds called from the barn. Somewhere, a tractor started, Dutch or Martin getting equipment ready for spring planting. I don't expect us to go back to how we were, Warren said. I know I destroyed that, but I'm hoping maybe we can build something different. Not marriage, not romance, just partnership. Two people who love the same land and the same memory and want to make sure both are protected. Co-stewards, I said. Yeah, he almost smiled. Can co-stewards have coffee sometime? Talk about planning schedules and property taxes and all the boring things that keep a farm running? Maybe, if you're buying. I'm buying. He stood, offered his hand to help me up. I took it. His palm was calloused. Familiar, warm. He pulled me to my feet and then let go. Proper distance. Respectful. We walked back to the house together. On the porch, he stopped. I want you to have this. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the gavel, his father's gavel, the one that had traveled from Elena's trophy shelf to the auction barn to Judge Hendrix's chambers to here. It belongs with the farm, with the family. And you're still family, Margaret. No piece of paper changes that. I took it. The wood was warm from being carried close to his body, smooth from decades of use. I could see his father's initials carved near the handle. W.H. Warren Hollis Sr. I'll keep it safe, I said. I know you will. He went inside. I heard him moving through rooms, probably noticing everything Pearl and the volunteers had done. The clean floors, the organized kitchen, the absence of Elena's things. Taking inventory of what remained, I set the gavel on the porch railing between the two rocking chairs. Warren's chair, my chair. Not together, but not separate either, just side by side, the way things sometimes had to be. I drove home as the sun set, painting the fields gold and orange. At my apartment, I made dinner I barely tasted and tried to watch television that couldn't hold my attention. Finally, I opened my laptop and started typing. An email to Katie's address. I'd kept it active, couldn't bring myself to close it. Katie, your dad came home today. He's scared and sorry and trying to figure out how to live in a house full of memories. But he's there. He's not running anymore. I don't know if we'll ever be what we were. Probably not. Too much is broken, but maybe we can be something else. Something that honors what you wanted us to be, family. In whatever form that takes, the daffodils are blooming on your grave. Yellow, like you loved. Your dad planted them. He talks to you every morning. I think you'd like that. I think you'd tell him he's doing okay. I love you. We both love you. And we're trying. That's all we can do. Mom, I hit send even though the email would bounce back, even though Katie would never read it. Sometimes you write letters, not because anyone will receive them, but because you need to say the words anyway. My phone buzzed. Text from Warren. Thank you for fighting, for not giving up on the land. On Katie's memory. On me. I typed back, thank you for coming home. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. It's good to be home. I fell asleep that night, with the windows open, spring air moving through my apartment, carrying the smell of earth and growing things. I dreamed of Katie on her tree swing, laughing while Warren pushed her higher, higher, reaching for sky. In the dream, I was standing at the fence, watching them. Not close, but close enough. Not part of the moment, but witness to it. And somehow that was enough. When I woke, it was dawn. The rain gauge on my windowsill, I'd bought one after seeing Warren's, some old habit I couldn't break, showed half an inch from overnight showers. Good for the seedlings. Good for new growth. I made coffee and opened the notebook I'd started keeping, not like my mother's field journal, but similar, recording not crops and weather, but moments. Progress. Small victories. April 16th, joint stewardship agreement signed. Warren moved back to the farm. Volunteers helped with repairs. Daffodils blooming. Spring planting begins next week. We're trying. It wasn't poetry. It wasn't redemption. It was just the truth, written down so someday someone might understand what it took to rebuild after everything fell apart. The phone rang. Warren. Margaret, I'm looking at the Northeast 40. We need to decide on the corn variety for this year. Could you come out? Look at the field notes with me? I'll be there in 20 minutes. I drove out to the farm in the soft morning light. Warren met me at the gate, 2 coffee mugs in his hands. We walked the fence line together, talking about soil quality and rainfall predictions and all the practical things that made a life. We didn't hold hands, didn't touch except accidentally when we both reached for the same field map, but we worked side by side, making decisions about land that had outlasted our marriage and would outlast us both. At Katie's grave, we stopped. The daffodils nodded in the breeze. The swing moved slightly, chains creaking their rusty song. "You think she'd approve?" Warren asked. "Of how we're doing this?" "I think she'd say we're doing our best, and that's enough." "Is it enough?" I looked at the farmhouse, the barn with its new roof, the fields stretching green toward the horizon, at Warren standing beside me, not close but not far, just present in a way he hadn't been for years. "It's a start," I said, and maybe that was all any of us ever got. Not perfect endings, not fairy tale reconciliations, just the chance to start again, a little wiser, a little more careful with the things that mattered. We walked back to the house together. Warren went inside to work on equipment maintenance. I sat on the porch with the gavel beside me, watching the land wake up under spring sun. Somewhere in the barn, I heard Warren's voice, talking to himself or to Katie or to the memory of his father. Steady, sure, home. The land remembers who loved it and who tried to sell it. We were the ones who loved it, and now finally, we were learning to love each other again. Not as husband and wife, but as stewards of something bigger than either of us. Guardians of memory, keepers of ground. It wasn't the ending I'd imagined when I found those divorce papers in the courthouse records room, but it was real, it was earned. And some days that was more than enough. 3 weeks later, I sat on the porch at dawn with my coffee. The rain gauge showed 2 inches from last night's storm, good for the seedlings. I opened a field notebook, wrote the date, the weather, the first report of growth in the Northeast 40. Continuing the work, keeping the record, the daffodils on Katie's grave were blooming bright against gray stone. Warren had been there yesterday, left fresh roses beside my tulips. From the barn, I heard him talking to Dutch about equipment repairs, his voice steady, present, home. The land remembers who loved it, and now so would we.